The alien queen said. "You impregnated me as a human," and wouldn't let me go. Captain Jonathan Vance stood at the edge of the ship's observation deck, staring out at the vast expanse of stars. The mission had been long, and their objective was clear: gather information on the newly discovered alien race that inhabited a distant planet. The crew had spent weeks traveling through deep space, and now they had arrived. The planet, named Zora IV, was unlike any other they had encountered. The atmosphere shimmered with hues of purple and orange, and the terrain was rugged, with sharp mountain peaks and deep valleys. Vance had seen many alien worlds, but none so mysterious and inviting. The scans from the ship's sensors had revealed strange energy signatures coming from deep within the planet, and the crew was eager to uncover the source. The ship's artificial gravity hummed softly behind him as he turned to face his team. The other members of the exploration team, all experts in various fields, were busy preparing for the first step onto Zora IV's surface. There was Dr. Marissa Rayner, a biologist who specialized in alien ecosystems, Lieutenant Kyle Walker, a weapons specialist, and Engineer Sophia Lopez, who managed the ship's tech. "Captain, we're ready for the surface expedition," Dr. Rayner called, stepping forward with her gear. She gave him a smile, though it was tinged with nerves. Vance nodded, adjusting the straps of his own gear. "All right, everyone, stay sharp. We don't know what we'll encounter down there, but our mission is clear. Gather intel, let's move." The team moved with practiced efficiency, exiting the ship and stepping into the alien landscape. The ground was rocky, the air was thinner than Earth's, and strange, towering plants with bioluminescent leaves grew sporadically. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of their boots on the dry earth. As they ventured deeper into the terrain, the energy signatures they had detected earlier became stronger. They soon reached a large cave system where the readings were concentrated. The entrance was hidden behind a mass of thorny bushes, but Vance easily pushed them aside, revealing the dark mouth of the cave. "Let's go," Vance said, motioning for the team to follow him. They entered the cave, the only light coming from the glow of their helmets. The air inside was cool and damp, the walls covered in strange alien symbols that seemed to pulse with energy. "Look at these markings," Dr. Rayner murmured, examining the walls closely. "They're unlike anything I've seen before, some kind of ancient writing." Vance glanced at her and nodded, though his mind was focused on the path ahead. The deeper they went into the cave, the stronger the energy readings became. He could feel a presence, something powerful and ancient. The team's footsteps echoed in the vast emptiness, and the hairs on the back of Vance's neck stood up. There was something in this cave that had been waiting for them. Suddenly, the cave widened into a massive chamber. At the far end, Vance could make out a tall figure standing in the shadows. The air felt thick with tension as the figure stepped forward into the light, revealing itself. The being was enormous, towering above them with a regal presence. It was an alien queen, her skin a shimmering shade of violet that almost seemed to glow in the dim light. Her eyes were a deep, reflective black, and her hair, long and silver, cascaded down her back. She wore ornate armor, unlike anything the team had seen before, which looked like it was forged from some sort of metal that shimmered and pulsed with energy. For a moment, the team stood frozen in place, their eyes wide with disbelief. The queen was not just a legend, but a reality. The stories they had heard from distant travelers now stood before them, more powerful and commanding than anything they could have imagined. Vance was the first to recover. He stepped forward, his voice steady despite the fear racing through his chest. "We come in peace. We're here to learn." The queen's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "You come to learn, human," she said, her voice low and filled with authority. "But what you do not know is that you have already begun something far greater than you realize." Before Vance could respond, the alien queen raised her hand, and a strange energy field enveloped the room. He felt a pressure on his chest, an invisible force pushing against him. The other members of his team struggled to breathe, their faces flushed with exertion. "Do not resist," the queen commanded. "You are now a part of this, whether you understand it or not." Vance's heart pounded in his chest as he tried to understand what was happening. Something deep inside him told him that they were not just visitors on this planet anymore. The queen's presence was overwhelming, and it was clear she held power that far surpassed anything they had encountered before. "I don't understand," Vance said, his voice strained. "What are you talking about?" The Queen's smile grew, though it held no warmth. You, Captain Jonathan Vance, have unknowingly been chosen. Your genetic material will strengthen my line. You have impregnated me. The words hit Vance like a punch to the gut. He took a step back, his mind racing to process what she had just said. What? Vance stammered. You have already given me what I need, the Queen said, and now I will not let you go. You are bound to me, human. Vance felt his world spin. The implications of her words were impossible to ignore. They had come here for a simple mission, gather information. But now, Vance was trapped in something far larger, far more dangerous than he could have ever anticipated. The Queen's eyes darkened as she stepped closer to him, her presence towering above him. You will remain here with me until the child is born, until my species is strengthened. Vance's mind was racing, trying to think of a way out, but the pressure of the alien energy was suffocating. There was no escape. He was at the mercy of this powerful alien queen, and there was nothing he could do. I will not let you go, the Queen repeated, her voice a low, commanding growl. You will stay, you will help me. Vance stood there helpless as the reality of his situation began to sink in. He had been caught in a web far beyond his control, and now he had no choice but to follow the Queen's will. He had impregnated her, and there was no going back. As the Queen's words echoed in the cave, Vance's heart pounded in his chest. He had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was certain. His life, and the lives of his crew, would never be the same again. Captain Jonathan Vance stood in the heart of the alien Queen's chamber, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of the situation. The air in the cave felt heavy, charged with an energy he couldn't comprehend. His body trembled slightly, the weight of what had just transpired crashing down on him. He had been trapped in an alien world, bound to a queen who had declared him the father of her child, a child that would shape the future of her species. The Queen, her towering form draped in armor that shimmered like liquid metal, stood before him. Her violet skin seemed to glow in the dim light, and her eyes, large and dark, held a glint of something he couldn't quite place, something both regal and terrifying. You will stay here with me, human, the Queen's voice echoed, smooth and cold, reverberating in the cave's walls. You will aid in the birth of a new era for my people. Vance swallowed hard, the implications of her words spinning in his head. He had come to this alien world with the goal of gathering information for humanity, never imagining that he would become a part of this alien queen's plan. He had unknowingly contributed to her species' future by providing his genetic material. And now it seemed there was no going back. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He wasn't just a captive, he was part of something far bigger than himself. The idea made his skin crawl, but Vance was no stranger to dangerous situations. He had faced countless threats in his career as an officer, but nothing like this. The Queen's gaze softened as she studied him. It was an unsettling look, a mix of power and curiosity, as if she was studying him not just as a captive, but as something more. You are important now, Captain. The fate of my people rests in your hands. Vance clenched his fists, trying to keep his composure. I never agreed to any of this, he said, his voice firm, though his insides churned with fear and frustration. I didn't ask for this. You can't just force me into this. The Queen's expression remained unreadable. You did not choose this, but fate chose you. You are bound to me now, whether you accept it or not. Her words stung, but Vance knew he couldn't fight her directly. The Queen was too powerful, her alien abilities far beyond anything he had ever encountered. But he wasn't going to just give up. There had to be a way out, a way to turn this situation to his advantage. He glanced at the rest of the team. Doctor Rayner, Lieutenant Walker, and Engineer Lopez stood off to the side, watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. They too were trapped in this strange world, their fates tied to Vance, in ways they couldn't yet understand. Do you understand what this means? Vance asked, his voice low but intense. You've made a mistake, Queen. If you think humanity is just going to roll over for you, you're wrong. We don't give up, we don't give in. The Queen stepped closer to him, her presence overwhelming. She placed a hand on his shoulder, and Vance felt a surge of energy pulse through him. It was like nothing he had ever experienced, a strange, electric current that seemed to sink deep into his bones. I don't expect you to understand yet, human, she said softly, her voice almost gentle. But in time you will come to see the truth of what we can achieve together. My people need you, we need you. Vance shook his head, his mind reeling. The Queen's words were both comforting and terrifying at the same time. She seemed to believe that this union, this forced bond, was something that would benefit them both, but Vance wasn't so sure. "What happens now?" Vance asked, his voice tight with uncertainty. "What are you going to do with me?" The Queen smiled, a subtle, knowing smile. "For now, you will stay with me in my care. You will help me ensure the survival of my species, and in return, you will learn our ways, our culture, our technology." Vance's mind raced. He had no choice but to stay for the time being, but he would never stop looking for a way out. He would learn everything he could about these aliens, their world, and their technology. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to escape if he played his cards right. But as he stood there, caught in the alien queen's web, a strange feeling washed over him. It wasn't just fear anymore. There was something else, something that made him question everything he thought he knew about survival, about humanity, and about his own role in this vast, alien world. The Queen turned to the rest of the team, her gaze shifting from Vance to Doctor. "Rayner, Walker, and Lopez, you are all now part of this," she said, her voice cold and commanding. "You will remain here as well. You will assist in the birth of a new era." There was a brief silence before Dr. Rayner spoke, her voice shaking. "What do you want from us?" "You will help us understand your species better," the Queen answered. "We need your knowledge, your technology. You will all play a part in our evolution." Vance knew that the Queen's words weren't just a demand, they were a necessity. Her species was desperate, and they were using humanity as a tool to ensure their survival. He could see that now, even if he didn't fully understand the motivations behind it all. The team exchanged uneasy glances, their fate now bound to the Queen, in a way none of them could have anticipated. Vance was the key, but they were all part of the puzzle now. The Queen turned back to Vance, her expression softening once more. "You will not be harmed, human. I will protect you as you protect me. This is the beginning of something greater than either of us." Vance nodded slowly, though his thoughts were far from comforting. He was trapped, caught in a game that was far beyond him, but he would fight. He always fought. Later that night, Vance sat in a small room within the Queen's palace, his mind racing with questions and doubts. The walls around him were adorned with intricate alien patterns, glowing faintly in the dark. There was no escape, at least not yet. The Queen's power was too great, her influence too strong. But Vance had faced impossible odds before. He had to keep his mind sharp, stay focused. There was always a way out, there had to be. As he lay in the dark, listening to the quiet hum of the palace around him, he couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Would he ever escape? Would humanity find a way to reclaim its independence? Or was this the beginning of a new chapter in history, where humans became a part of something much larger, much more complex than they had ever imagined? The answers, he knew, would come in time. But for now, he had to survive. He had to find a way to turn this twisted situation to his advantage. The Queen had said she would protect him. But he wasn't sure if that was a promise or a trap. Captain Jonathan Vance awoke to the sound of distant, echoing footsteps, the soft hum of the Queen's palace vibrating through the walls. He had spent the night in the dimly lit room, tossing and turning, struggling to calm his mind. The situation he found himself in felt like a nightmare, but the sharpness in his senses told him it was all too real. He was stuck on an alien planet, his future tied to a queen he didn't trust, and a species he couldn't fully understand. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and in stepped one of the Queen's attendants, a tall, slender alien with skin that shimmered like silver in the low light. The creature's eyes locked onto Vance as it moved toward him, and Vance instinctively tensed, expecting some new command or test. "You are to come with me," the attendant said in a low, melodic voice. "The Queen requires your presence." Vance rose slowly, his muscles stiff from the uncomfortable rest. He had been given little more than a simple cot to sleep on, but the discomfort of the physical surroundings paled in comparison to the tension of being trapped in this alien world. He had to remain composed, stay calm, and most importantly, keep his mind sharp. If he was going to find a way out of this, he needed to be ready for whatever the Queen might throw his way. As they walked through the winding corridors of the palace, Vance couldn't help but notice the strange, otherworldly beauty of the place. The walls were lined with glowing crystals that bathed the entire structure in soft, eerie light. Alien symbols covered every surface, and strange machinery hummed in the background, seemingly alive with energy. It was a place unlike any Vance had ever seen, and he couldn't help but feel the weight of its ancient history pressing down on him. The attendant led him into a large chamber, where the queen stood at the far end, gazing out a massive window that overlooked the alien world. The view was breathtaking. Mountains stretched out as far as the eye could see, their peaks bathed in the soft light of a twin sunset. But Vance couldn't appreciate the beauty. All he could focus on was the queen herself. Her presence filled the room, her power emanating from her like a force field. Her violet skin shimmered in the dim light, and her eyes, those dark, all-knowing eyes, locked onto Vance the moment he entered. He felt a chill run down his spine. The queen's gaze was intense, unwavering, and it held something that made him feel both awe and terror in equal measure. "You have not yet come to understand the significance of your role here," the queen said, her voice smooth and commanding. "You are not just a human. You are part of something much greater now." Vance didn't respond immediately. He knew what she wanted. She wanted him to accept his role, to understand that he was bound to her and her people. But he wasn't ready to give in. Not yet. "I don't know what you want from me," Vance said finally, his voice steady, though the knot in his stomach tightened. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't sign up to be your prisoner, to be part of your plans." The queen's expression softened slightly, though the edge of her power still hung in the air. "You misunderstand, Captain. You are not my prisoner. You are my partner, and through you, my species will survive and evolve." Vance shook his head. "I didn't ask to be part of your experiments or whatever it is you're planning. I'm not some pawn in your game." The queen's lips curled into a small smile, and she stepped closer to him. "You are not a pawn, human. You are a key to the future of my people." She paused, her gaze searching his face as if weighing his every reaction. "Do you not see it? Do you not feel it? The bond between us is inevitable. You will help me, whether you accept it or not. The child you have given me is not just any child. It is the future of my kind, and your future as well. This is how the universe works." Vance's thoughts raced. He knew that if he didn't play along, he would be trapped forever in this strange and unfamiliar world. But he wasn't about to give up so easily. There had to be a way out. There always was. "Why me?" Vance asked, his voice quiet but firm. "Why did you choose me? What makes humans so special to you?" The queen tilted her head slightly, as if considering the question. "Humans are adaptable, resilient. You thrive in environments where others falter. You are a species of survivors, and that is exactly what my people need." Vance felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. "So we're just tools to you? You're using us to save your species, and you don't care what happens to us?" The queen's gaze hardened, her voice lowering to a dangerous tone. "You misunderstand again, Captain. I care more for you than you think. You are more than just a tool. You are the father of my child. You have already become part of my legacy." Vance clenched his fists, his anger bubbling to the surface. "This isn't right. You can't just force me into this." The queen's eyes flickered with something, regret perhaps or understanding, but her resolve remained firm. "I do not force, I offer. The choice, Captain, is yours. You can resist, but in the end you will be a part of something greater. You will help me build a future that will last for millennia." Vance took a step back, his mind reeling. The idea of being bound to this alien queen, of helping her species survive, was too much to process. But as much as he wanted to reject the queen's words, something in him told him she wasn't lying. There was truth in what she said, and that truth scared him more than anything else. "If I agree to this," Vance said slowly, "what happens next? What do you want me to do?" The queen studied him for a long moment, her gaze never leaving his. Finally, she spoke. "For now, you will stay here with me. You will learn our ways, you will help us evolve, but in time you will see that there is no way forward without us. Humanity and my people are destined to become one." Vance felt a surge of dread flood through him, but he masked it with a calm expression. If this was the only way to survive, he would have to play along, at least for now. "I don't have a choice, do I?" he muttered, his voice quiet, almost resigned. The queen's expression softened, and for the first time there was a trace of sympathy in her eyes. "You always have a choice, Captain. But sometimes the greatest choice is to accept your place in the universe." Vance didn't answer. He didn't have the words. He was trapped in a world where the rules were unfamiliar, where his very existence was part of something much bigger than himself. But as much as he hated it, he knew that he had no choice but to go along for now. There was no escape. The queen turned away from him, her long silver hair flowing behind her like a river of starlight. "Come," she said, her voice commanding yet gentle. I will show you more of my world, the future you will help create. As they walked together through the palace, Vance couldn't shake the feeling that he was being led deeper into a trap. But for now, all he could do was follow. The Queen's grip on him was too strong and there was no way out. Not yet, but he would survive, he always did. And somehow, he would find a way to turn the tables on this alien queen. Captain Jonathan Vance walked through the halls of the Queen's palace, each step heavier than the last. The weight of the situation had become almost unbearable. He had never imagined himself in a place like this, surrounded by the ancient alien architecture and strange technology of a species he couldn't understand. The more he saw, the more he realized how little he knew about the world he was trapped in. And the deeper he went into this alien world, the more he could feel himself being drawn in. The Queen had shown him many things since their first encounter. Alien gardens where towering plants reached for the skies, massive laboratories filled with machines that hummed with alien energy, and chambers where her people worked to evolve their species. All of it was fascinating, and all of it made Vance feel more and more like a prisoner, a piece of something bigger than he could control. He had been reluctant at first, wanting nothing to do with the Queen's plans. But with each passing day, he had started to understand that resistance would get him nowhere. She was too powerful, her influence too vast. So he had begun to play along, learning what he could about her world, her people, and the technologies they possessed. He still held onto the hope that one day he could escape, but for now, his best chance of survival was to keep his wits about him. Today was no different. The Queen had summoned him again, her usual attendants guiding him through the palace to the royal chamber. This time, though, something felt different. There was an urgency in the air that hadn't been there before. The attendants seemed more tense, moving with purpose as they guided him toward the Queen's private chambers. Vance's curiosity piqued as he wondered what had changed. When he entered the room, he found the Queen standing by a large, circular window, gazing out at the alien world below. The soft glow of the planet's twin moons bathed her in an ethereal light, and for a moment she appeared almost human, her regal form silhouetted against the sky. "You're here," the Queen said, her voice as calm and commanding as always. She didn't turn to look at him right away. Instead, she seemed lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "What's going on?" Vance asked, his voice hesitant. "You seem different today." The Queen finally turned to face him, her deep black eyes locking onto his. There was a flicker of something in her gaze, something more serious than usual. "There are things you do not understand yet, human," she said, her tone softer than before. "But you will, soon enough." Vance didn't speak right away, choosing instead to study her. The Queen was a complex being, and the more he observed her, the more he realized how much she had hidden beneath her powerful exterior. She wasn't just a ruler, she was a survivor just like him. She had been through battles, through wars, through betrayals. And now she had chosen him for a reason. But why? "I'm listening," Vance said, his voice steady but cautious. The Queen stepped closer to him, her presence overwhelming. "The child you have given me is not just a symbol of our future," she began. "It is the key to saving my people. We are on the brink of extinction, Captain. Our species is dying. Our numbers have dwindled, and we are not strong enough to survive on our own. But the child, your child, carries within it the potential to change everything." Vance felt a chill run through him. He had known that the Queen's words carried weight, but hearing her speak so openly about her people's future made the situation feel even more real. This wasn't just about him anymore. It wasn't just about being trapped in some alien palace. It was about the survival of an entire species. "The child will carry the strength of both our peoples," the Queen continued, her voice growing more intense. "Together we will forge a future that will last for eons. My people will be reborn. They will be stronger, more resilient, and your species, Captain, will have a place among us. We will become one." Vance felt his stomach tighten at her words. He wasn't sure what he had expected from the Queen, but this wasn't it. She wasn't just trying to use him. She wasn't just trying to create a hybrid child. She was trying to create something far more ambitious, an alliance between their two species, an unbreakable bond. For a moment, Vance thought of his crew, of Earth, of everything he had left behind. Could he really go along with this? Could he accept being part of something so much bigger than himself? "What's the plan, then?" Vance asked, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. "What do you need from me?" The Queen's eyes glinted with something unreadable. "You will help guide us, Captain. You will help us understand the strengths of your species, your history, your knowledge. We will blend the best of both worlds, and together we will create a new future." Vance stared at her, trying to read her expression. There was something about the way she spoke that made him feel like a pawn, but he knew he couldn't show weakness. If he was going to survive this, he needed to stay strong. "And if I refuse?" Vance asked, his voice a little more firm than before. The Queen's smile was small but not unkind. "You do not have a choice, Captain. You are already bound to me. The bond we share is not one that can be undone, but you will not be forced into this. I will not make you my slave. You will simply help me. You will help us all." Vance felt his heart race. He had no idea what was worse, being forced into a partnership with an alien queen or being used as part of some grand plan for the survival of a dying species. Neither option seemed appealing, but the truth was, he didn't have much of a choice. "And what about my crew?" Vance asked, his voice quieter this time. "What happens to them?" The Queen studied him for a moment as though considering his question. "Your crew will be cared for, they will not be harmed. They are valuable to us, as they hold knowledge that will aid in the survival of my people. They will be treated with respect, as you will." Vance wasn't sure whether to believe her. He didn't trust the Queen completely, but there was something in her words that made him think she wasn't lying. She was cold, calculating, but she wasn't without honor, at least not in her own way. "I'll do what you ask," Vance said finally, his voice tight. "But I need to know everything. I need to understand what's really going on here. I need to understand your people, your world, and how I can help." The Queen's smile grew slightly, though it was still a far cry from warmth. "You will learn, Captain. In time, you will understand everything." Vance stood there for a long moment, the weight of the Queen's words settling over him. He had agreed to help her, but he wasn't sure if he could ever truly trust her. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't go back to Earth. He was in this for the long haul, and whatever happened, he would have to make the best of it. As the Queen turned to leave, her attendants waiting for her commands, Vance's mind raced with questions. What had he just agreed to? And what would the future hold for him, for his crew, and for humanity? For now, all he could do was follow. But one thing was clear. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and the path ahead would be anything but easy. Captain Jonathan Vance stood at the edge of the large, crystalline window, staring out at the alien world below. The twin moons bathed the surface of Zora IV in a soft, silvery glow. From this height, the planet seemed peaceful, but Vance knew better. Peace was a fragile thing, especially in a place as unpredictable as this. The Queen had told him that the future of her species was in his hands, and every day since then, he had felt the weight of that responsibility grow heavier. He had spent weeks learning about the Queen's people, their history, and their technology. He had listened to her lectures on survival and evolution, on the importance of the hybrid child she carried, his child, and how it would bring her species back from the brink of extinction. She had been clear about one thing: humanity was a vital part of that future. Vance had always known that his mission would be difficult, but he never imagined it would end like this. He had come to this planet with the hope of gathering intelligence, not becoming entangled in the survival of an alien race. Yet here he was, bound to a queen he didn't trust, helping to shape the destiny of her people while struggling to keep his own humanity intact. The door behind him opened, and Vance turned to see one of the Queen's attendants entering the room. The alien bowed slightly, its shimmering skin reflecting the light of the room. "Captain Vance," the attendant said, its voice soft and respectful, "the Queen wishes to speak with you." Vance nodded, his stomach tightening. Every conversation with the Queen left him with more questions than answers. But he knew better than to delay. If he was going to find a way out of this situation, he needed to keep playing along, keep learning what he could. He followed the attendant through the palace, moving through corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly, each one more ornate and alien than the last. The walls pulsed with light, and strange symbols glowed faintly on the surfaces. It was both beautiful and unsettling, a constant reminder of how far he was from home. When they reached the Queen's private chamber, the attendant motioned for him to enter. Inside, the Queen was waiting. She stood by a large table, her violet skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Her long silver hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes, those dark, unblinking eyes, seemed to look right through him. "You've come," she said softly, not bothering to ask him to sit. There was no need. She had already decided what needed to be done. Vance crossed the room, his boots clicking softly against the stone floor. "What is it this time?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Another lecture on how humanity will save your species." The Queen's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "You are still resistant, Captain, but you are learning, and that is what matters." Vance couldn't bring himself to smile back. "What do you want from me?" She stepped closer, her presence so overwhelming that Vance had to fight the instinct to take a step back. "You know why you're here. You know what your role is." He didn't answer right away, his mind racing. He was tired of this. Tired of being pulled into the Queen's grand plan, but there was nothing he could do. For now, he had to endure. "The child you carry will be the key to everything," the Queen continued, her voice low and firm. "It will bring my people the strength they need. And through you, Captain, we will secure a future." Vance clenched his fists at his sides. "And what about humanity? What about my crew?" The Queen's expression softened for the briefest moment, but it was gone almost immediately. "Your crew will be safe. I have given my word. But their future is tied to yours now. You are part of this, whether you accept it or not." Vance felt a surge of frustration rise within him. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be part of your plans. You can't just drag me into this without my consent." The Queen's gaze darkened, but there was no anger in her eyes, only the calm certainty of someone who knew they had already won. "You misunderstand, Captain. You have always been part of this. From the moment you stepped onto this planet, your fate was sealed. There is no going back now." Vance opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. The Queen was right. There was no going back. He was trapped in this world, caught in the web of her power. The only choice he had was how he would play the game. "Then what do you want from me?" Vance asked again, his voice quieter now. "What is it that I can possibly do to help you?" The Queen seemed to study him for a long moment, her eyes narrowing as if she were trying to read his soul. Finally, she spoke. "You will help us understand your species better. You will teach us what it means to be human. We will learn from you, and you will learn from us." Vance frowned. "Learn from you? How? I'm not some subject for you to experiment on." She raised a hand, and Vance felt the room's temperature shift, as if the very air around them was charged with an unseen force. "No, Captain, you are not a subject. You are a partner. You will guide us, show us how to survive, how to evolve." Vance took a deep breath. He didn't like the way she spoke about him. He didn't like the way she had made him feel like he was simply a tool in her plan. But what choice did he have? "And what happens after?" he asked. "After this child is born, what happens to me then?" The Queen's gaze turned colder and her smile faded. "That is something you will have to accept in time. The child will be born, and once it is, my people will have the strength to build an empire. And you, Captain, will be a part of that empire." Vance stood there in silence, his mind working furiously. He had no idea what the Queen had in mind, but he knew one thing for certain: he was part of something far bigger than he could control. He had no power here. The Queen's people were stronger, more advanced, and their plans stretched far beyond anything he could understand. But one thing remained clear: he wasn't about to give up. He had to survive. He had to find a way to keep his crew safe. And if there was one thing Vance knew, it was how to survive against all odds. "I'll do what you ask," Vance said, his voice flat. "But don't think for a second that I've given up. I'll find a way out of this, one way or another." The Queen seemed to study him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, without a word, she turned away, walking back to the large window. She looked out at the alien world below, her thoughts clearly on something far beyond him. "You are stubborn, Captain," she said, almost to herself. "But that is what makes you useful." Vance didn't respond. He had said all he needed to say. There was no more point in arguing, for now he had to play along, to keep learning, to keep watching. The Queen's plan was in motion, and he was part of it, for better or worse. As he turned to leave the room, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being led down a path that would eventually lead to something far worse than he could imagine. But for now, all he could do was survive, and somehow he would find a way to turn the tables on the Queen. He always did.